We all love a good superhero ship now and then, don't we? I mean, personally, I've got a lot of ships that I'm like low-key shipping, and I mean, actually probably were pretty obvious when I did the top 10 shipping list that we did a while back. But regardless, I think we can all agree when superhero couples get together in the comics, we're kind of like, oh, yeah. Hell yeah, love. So today we are counting down the top 10 superhero couples we wish would happen, because not all of them have happened, which is, you know. Now some of these pairings are couples who have never been together, while others have some history but have moved on to a different significant other. So with that in mind, let's get to our list. In at number 10, Harley Quinn and Deadpool. Okay, yes, they are from two competing publishers, but so what? This is a ship that is derivative of how popular both Harley and Deadpool were back in 2016. And quite frankly, how popular they still are. The fire was fueled by a fan art piece created by Ivan Navarro, depicting the two on a date at a diner, sharing a strawberry milkshake while the Joker looks on as Batman drags him away. Now people loved it, despite understanding that, realistically, it is a ship that will never sail, thanks to Deadpool being a Marvel character and Harley being a DC one. Never say never though, right? DC and Marvel did pull off a crossover once upon a time, and Harley once kind of almost dated a dude named Red Tool, who not only looks pretty darn similar to Deadpool, but also embodies that Deadpool charm and insanity. He was actually a parody of Deadpool. So, you know, Deadpool would probably be her type after all. Moving on to number 9, Loki and Enchantress. Loki and Enchantress have quite the history. Enchantress's very first appearance in the comics in 1964's Journey into Mystery issue 103 had her team up with Loki to take down his brother Thor. While they failed to do so, it was the start of a long and enduring partnership between the two. Both are manipulative, both like to get under their foe's skin, and both don't care about dealing with bullshit. She's always been romantically or sexually linked to Thor though, with the two of them even having a bit of a friends with benefits situation as roommates back in the mid-90s. But in more recent times, it's Loki who fans have spotted chemistry with for her, which became especially prevalent when Loki took on a female form. In at number 8, Batman and Nightwing. Okay, controversial pick, but hear me out. This one dates back to the Golden Age, people, and while you might snicker or stick your tongues out at the thought, and you know, to each their own, fair enough, any shipper can appreciate the history of subtext that these two characters have been imbued with over the last century. It's a thing that has lessened over the years with Dick Grayson growing up and becoming Nightwing, but the gay subtext between Batman and Robin was pretty prominent back in the early days of the characters. It was one of the arguments used by Frederick Wortham, the man who wrote Seduction of the Innocent, which helped fuel the Senate hearings on whether or not comics were appropriate for children to read. Now back in the Golden Age, there were panels depicting Bruce and Dick in bed together. Often in the 40s and the early 50s, their stories would begin with the two of them doing some sort of leisurely activity that was kind of datey-ish, like rowboating together, lying naked together under sun lamps, and they also lived together in close quarters. The Bat family was then introduced after the Comics Code Authority came to be, with much less emphasis on the closeness between Bruce and Dick. Creators likes of Grant Morrison have actually even stated that despite him being intended to be a heterosexual character, I quote, "gayness is built into Batman." And I mean gayness in like the gay happy way, but also he is kind of got a lot of queer subtext in the past. Nothing wrong with that, you know? You can be sexually fluid, Batman. There's no judgment from us. Moving on to number 7, Thor and Storm. Thor and Storm, both masters of weather, although Storm arguably more so than Thor, no offense to the Asgardian god, have come together and encountered one another multiple times in the comics. They've fought together, they've shown respect towards one another, and they've even flirted a little bit. But they've never been romantically linked, despite some fans' beliefs that they would make a fantastic couple. And hey, they wouldn't need much of an icebreaker. Get it? Because they both control weather and ice is an element of... You know, let's just let that dad joke die. Anyway, it is easy to see the similarities that they share besides coming from vastly different backgrounds, which is pretty cool. Moving on to number 6, Peter Parker and Shuri. This one comes straight out of the MCU as one of the most highly shipped couples in recent history. Sometime between Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, part of the internet was dead set on making Spider-Man Peter Parker, played by Tom Holland in the MCU, and Shuri, Black Panther's sibling science whiz and total genius, played by Letitia Wright, getting together. And really, we totally get why. They're both teenagers, both endearingly geeky, both have a great sense of humor, and the possibilities of what them meeting on screen would entail are endless. And all very, very charming. The two did come together as cast members during promos for the massive cinematic events, but until they grace the big screen as their characters in a scene together, we won't be satisfied. Make it happen, Marvel Studios. Up next at 5, Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz. These two are adorable and have one of the most refreshing and supportive friendships in comics. So naturally, some fans wanted more. Let's backtrack though. Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz are Green Lanterns. They got their rings around the same time as each other, and their personal story arcs examine important themes. Baz is a Muslim man, and we witnessed him endure some racial prejudice on panel because of this. Jess struggles with a lot of mental health issues, something that has made her stories more complex since being a Green Lantern is all about wielding that willpower to do your job. Not something that's easy when you're depressed. Over time, the two supported one another, helping each other overcome their shortcomings, and that grew into them becoming a fantastic team. So we can totally get why some people, kinda want to see them make out. Moving on to number 4, Superman and Wonder Woman. Here we have a couple that has actually graced the panels of DC's comics multiple times in the past. Back in 1974, the two announced that they were engaged in an issue of Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, issue 136, but turns out it was all the scheme of a villain named the Revenger. Then in 1981, the two got hot and heavy in DC Comics Presents issue 32 in a story called The Super Prisoners of Love. But it was all a villainous ruse yet again, this time by the god Eros after Wonder Woman had rejected him. Out of revenge, he makes her and Superman fall in love, and shenanigans ensued. In 1983 in Wonder Woman issue 300, we see some alternate realities courtesy of Diana's dreams, one of which is a hypothetical reality of what life would have been like if she married Superman. And in a bunch of other stories to follow, a romance was teased. Now in alternate timelines like Kingdom Come and The Dark Knight Strikes Again, the two are coupled up. And more recently, they got involved in 2012 in Justice League issue 12, adorning the cover of the issue with a big ol' romantic superpower kiss. But it's always been Lois for Superman at the end of the day, even though many fans would disagree. Up next, number 3, Spider-Woman and Captain Marvel. Here we have a case of two superheroes whose supportive friendship has made fans want them to take a step further. Jessica Drew and Carol Danvers have been there for each other when others have not. Jess helped Carol deal with the aftermath of the trauma that she endured thanks to Marcus and Mortis, who had kidnapped and raped her, and all the rest of the Avengers just basically were like, we thought you wanted it. It was And then when Jess became pregnant, Carol was at her side helping with the pregnancy and with the baby after it was born too. These two have even gotten a little physically close on panel, making some fans read into that as queer subtext. But regardless of how their relationship evolves, these two ladies have been more than just peers, and have become lifelong friends that always make us smile when they interact with one another on panel. But it would also be great if they, were together. They're so supportive and they know each other so well. Alright, moving on to number 2, we've got Stucky. Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes. We're talking about Captain America and the Winter Soldier, Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes, one of the most prominent ships in the comic book shipping community right now. While there's arguably less of an emphasis on the ship based on the relationship in the comics, Bucky was Steve's young ward after all, the MCU has done nothing but fuel this fire. So for starters, in the comics at the end of World War II, Cap and Bucky went on a mission which resulted in Bucky's seeming demise. Turns out he didn't die after all, and he was taken in by the Soviets when one of their submarines discovered him and turned him into a sleeper agent assassin. He came back, Cap was shook. The MCU version has a much older version of Bucky as Cap's best friend before Cap got his superpowers. And the friendship between the two is filled with so much love and sacrifice for one another that it makes sense that they have such a large following of shippers. Whether or not you think it's platonic or you think it's subtly romantic, that's up to you, friends. Just know, they got a lot of heart for one another. And finally, in at number 1, Nightwing and Starfire. Alright, so maybe we're a little bit biased with choosing Nightwing and Starfire as number 1, because it's kind of a relationship that we really want to see happen again, and to be fair, a lot of fans feel the same way. So Nightwing and Starfire got together when they were both on the Teen Titans team. When Starfire first arrived to the planet, she kissed Dick in order to learn the English language. By touching individuals, she can learn languages that she's never learned before, so, planting one on Dick was a practical reason, but she kissed him because she thought he was cute, really. Anyway, the relationship between these two is pretty iconic, and also involved a lot of sex, which, caused a little bit of controversy. They also almost got married. And that wedding was then crashed by Raven, who was demonic and then kind of made out with Starfire, but really she was her dad who was possessing her. It's a whole thing. Anyway, they unfortunately parted ways. And I guess Dick is sort of in love with Barbara, and she's technically his endgame to some people, but it would be nice to see Nightwing and Starfire get back together, because they were such an interesting couple and so very compelling to watch. And so very compelling to read. Alright, there we have it, friends. What other couples would you like to see get together? Or I guess individuals becoming couples. Who do you want to see? Make sure you give us a shout in those comments below and let us know. If you guys dug this video, you know what to do. Hit that like button, share it with a friend, and be sure to subscribe to Top 10 Nerd for more videos just like this one. In the meantime, thanks for watching. I'll catch you all in the next one. It's a thing that has lessened over the years with Dick Grayson growing up and becoming Nightwing, but the gay— hair just went in my mouth. But that gay— Up next at number 3 is a number that I did not f***ing write. God damn it. I knew I was missing one. Okay,